Down in Petersburg, everything's fine. All them cats is drinking that wine. Drinking that mess is their delight. When you get drunk, start singing all night. Drinking wine's for you to drink wine. Wine's for you to drink wine. Wine's for you to drink wine. Pass that bottle to me. Drinking that mess is their delight. When it gets drunk, start fighting all night. Knock down windows and tear down doors. Drinking Afghan.
Welcome to this special Tasting Anarchy beer episode. I'm Jake Linzy, and I'm joined by my very beautiful sister. Say your name, Jorie.
Hi, I'm Jorie. Sorry.
That's all right. You may remember her from, as of right now, our third most popular episode, The Ghost of Christmas Present. We had a lot of good responses from that, and people were like, well, you should do more beer episodes. So I figured Jorie would be a good beer correspondent because she works at a restaurant that has, how many beers do they have on tap?
132.
Wow, that's a lot. So
132 cycling daily.
Cycling daily?
Well, we don't have 132 different every day, but we probably have at least 5 new beers. Like run out of one and retap a new one, about 5 different beers a day. We print our menus like 3 times a week.
Oh, okay. Well, that's still a lot of beers. So you get an opportunity to try a lot of them.
Yes, I do, which is awesome.
Yep. So
although I forget what I try a lot.
That's all right. That's part of drinking. It's fun to forget what you've tried.
Yeah, for sure.
Then you can try it again.
Yeah, that's true.
So you recommended 2 beers for me, and I went down to Total Wine and I picked those up because that's where I get pretty much everything. So the first one that I've got here is Dragon's Milk. I've opened it up.
I also have that here.
Okay, great. I opened it up, but I haven't tried it yet. It's 11% alcohol by volume, which is way higher than most beer that I drink. But
yeah, it's super boozy.
Yeah, super boozy. Now, what makes this one special? I'll let you say.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's a really, for me, I'm not a fan of the barrel-aged beers because they are oftentimes have a very strong alcohol flavor, and I'm not a huge fan of bourbon or whiskey in general. But this one is a lot smoother. You don't get a ton of that alcohol. It's pretty deep, which I think kind of cancels it out a little bit. It has very sweet malts to it.
Yeah.
So it is good. It's actually not my favorite beer, but it is a really good one, and it was one that you could get as well. And it's extremely popular. So,
yeah. Okay. Well, I think it is pretty good. I like stouts. You're right though. This is not nearly as boozy as most bourbon barrel aged ones.
Right.
So I think this is actually a good
pick.
pick.
For 11%.
Yeah, even for 11%. Yeah, which is unusual. Now this is from New Holland Brewing, which is I think in New York. I've had other things from them. I think
it might be in Maine.
Oh,
maybe it is New York.
Okay. I know it's up north somewhere, those Yankees.
Or Michigan.
Yeah, I think
Michigan.
Okay, that could be.
Let me look. I'm going to look.
Actually, I pulled it up just now. It is New York.
Oh, it is New York. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have had one from them before, and I'm looking it up real quick because I've not had this one, but I have had the Poet. Have you had that one?
Oh, I think we have had that.
Yeah.
That's so funny because our menu says Holland, Michigan. So how weird is that? I wonder who's wrong.
Oh.
Well, I mean, probably us because if you're looking it up.
Well, I mean, that's what it says, New Holland. Maybe they have more than one brewery.
Oh, that's potential.
Yeah.
I looked at the menu earlier. That's why I was curious.
No, I'm wrong. When you go to it says it on Google, but when you actually go to their contact page, it does say Holland, Michigan.
Oh, how weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
They might have more than one brewery then.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, this is actually pretty good. It is very smooth. I like stouts a lot, and this is definitely a good one. Milk stouts too are one of my favorite. And then the Poet, which is the other one, I was on a real big oatmeal stout kick for a while.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what is it? Adam Smith's oatmeal stout or something. Smith's oatmeal stout.
Yeah.
That was a popular one for a while that I liked a lot. And the other one from New Holland Brewing is pretty good as well. Man, I'm saying a lot in this episode. But yeah, I like this one. It's like a roasted malt, kind of like a more like a smoother, a lot of vanilla, and it does have a little bit of that oakiness from the barrel, but it doesn't have the bourbony booziness.
Right, that's what I was thinking. It's definitely the oak comes out a lot more than the booze, and that's I think why I like it more than most barrel-aged beers. It is, for me personally, it's a little on the side. Okay. And I don't know if it's the sweet mixed with the strong, the higher alcohol content that I'm not a huge fan of. I mean, I do like it, but it's one that I could probably just drink one of and then move on to something a little lighter.
Yeah, I think that I would agree with that. That's it is, I think, a little too strong for me to have several of them, but very good.
Right. Yeah. Definitely very good. Super duper popular. A crowd pleaser, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. And a good thing to introduce somebody who doesn't really know stouts very well. Maybe they'll I don't know how this works for you, but I used to do charity beer things. So I would like be the person who like pours the beer from the big car at like charity events.
Oh yeah, cool.
And people would come in and they'd be like, well, I like this. What do you have this like that? Because most people, they don't know the microbrews. They know that they like Bud Light, or they know that they like. I mean, sometimes they'll come in, they'll be like, well, I don't really know what I like that much, but I do know that I like. Like
Blue Moon.
Yeah, Blue Moon, or the very popular ones, the Guinness, that kind of thing. So if somebody came in, they were like, I want to try a microbrew. I like Guinness. What do you have? You could say, well, why don't you try this? It's similar to Guinness in a lot of ways. It's more like Guinness Extra Stout. It's not like the import, but but it's similar.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that happens a lot here, is that we have an overwhelming amount of beer, so they're like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me what you drink usually, and then we'll go from there.
Right.
And so when I train people here, I'm like, okay, these are what you need to know. If they say they like Blue Moon, you offer them this beer. If they say they like this, you offer them this beer. If you say, and so that's like, because we do have a 30 that stay on tap, so we have a very standard go-to for if they say they like this, you can go to this. And then as you learn more beers and stuff, and I've been working for 2 years, and I have learned a lot about beer, but definitely not all there is to learn. So
yeah, right. So the other one, moving on to the other beer, I've got two topics, but I don't want to keep you on the phone for like 30 minutes. So
yeah, no worries.
But I want to move on to the other beer, which is Rahr and Sons Brewing Company's Adios Pantalones. This is another one that you recommended to me, and I don't know if it'll pick it up on the microphone, but it's in a can.
Oh.
So I'm going to open that up.
Nice.
Yeah, so
that did sound nice.
All right. So this one is a Saison, but it's a Saison with added lemon and lime. So I think that's interesting. Now, to contrast this with the other one, this is 4.5% alcohol by volume. This seems to me, I've always thought that like Saisons were like really nice session beers, so you just kind of like sip on them, and I really like Saisons, and they do tend to be lower in alcohol, like just kind of something you bring to the beach. A lot of people think that Saisons are too, I guess, fancy to have in like hot weather and stuff, but I think it's a perfect hot weather beer.
I agree.
Yeah,
for the most part, definitely.
Yeah,
they're very smooth, light.
This is actually very good. So one of the cool things about this brewing company is that they're like 20 minutes away from my house.
So that is very excited to go visit it when we come and see you.
Yeah, and there's actually right down the street from that is a really good pizza place that also brews called Fort Brewery and Pizza that my new friend Car Campit from the Friends Against Government podcast, the Fagcast. He and I went to that pizza place, and it was really good. And they also brew. They also have quite a few good beers. And again, I had stout and a porter, I think, because I tend to like the darker beers when I'm just going to sit and talk for several hours, but not at 11% alcohol by volume. So we'll go ahead and recap both of these at the end of the show. I'm going to finish the milk stout because although I do like the Saison, if I don't,
probably better.
End with. Yeah, it's better to end with. And also, I've got one more mini episode to do today, and which is a glass of wine that I have out right now that's like breathing, so that I can do a good review on it. But so I don't want to be drinking like ungodly amounts of alcohol.
Right.
I have one of the things that I was going to bring up as a topic. Now, I just did a mini episode earlier today, which was a non-drinking episode. It was just me reviewing some Cabernet Francs that I had. And one of the flavors in the Cabernet Franc reminded me of Apple Hill ripe red apples. And yeah, which is really good. And it kind of got me thinking. I was like, I know there's a lot of stuff going on in Apple Hill. You and I've talked about like there's some wineries up there, and you lived in El Dorado Hills for a while, more recently than I have. And I was looking it up, and there's a brewery up there called Jack Russell Brewing.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of it? You've been there? Okay. So
I have. I
looked it up, and I was reading their beers. I was like, these all sound really good. And they also have a farm and brewery. And it looks like they also do their own hops, or at least a portion of their own hops.
Yeah, and I believe they have one in Placerville as well.
Yeah, well, it says there's two. Yeah, there's two locations. One's up in Camino, and one is downtown in Placerville.
Yeah, Uncle Paul played a show there last summer.
Oh, cool. Oh, maybe, I'm going to ask Uncle Paul if I can put in this show maybe some of his music to close, because that would be fun.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. But I was just kind of thinking about it. When we were kids, we went up to Apple Hill all the time, and the way I describe a lot of flavors in wine and a lot of flavors in beer, it's usually like, oh, this reminds me of something from when I was a kid. So like when I was describing this Cabernet Franc, I was like, oh, it's kind of like those ripe red apples. It's like I said, there's two distinct flavors in it: ripe red apples from Apple Hill, and also, you know, when you're driving down in the valley, those like kind of like rundown shacks that sell cherries and things like that, and you get those like fresh red cherries. So I was like those fresh red cherries flavors too. So one of the topics I thought we would discuss, not just the Jack Russell Brewing, just because I thought that was cool and I saw it, I was like, oh, maybe next time you and I are both in California, we should go to there, and then maybe try out some of the wineries that are up in Apple Hill. But also, like, do you have any distinct memories of Apple Hill, either recently when you went up there with August, or like when we were kids? Because I have memories of Apple Hill, but when I've gone there as an adult, it's not at all what I remember. It's a very different place.
Yeah, I think it's very different than I remember too. But I mean, mine's also just the smell.
Yeah.
Smells are, and I feel like that's what a lot of memories are for me. Camp Burton are the smells, and the Apple Hill is definitely smells, and it's those fresh apples, and or a lot of my Apple Hill ones too are wintertime going up for the tree and stuff, and the hotter apple cider and just the crisp, cool air and stuff like that. And then I've gone a couple times as when I've been older, and we did just go this last time I was there, and it was fun. It was fun, and it had a lot of good apple stuff, and it smelled really good. When did we go? I went with Jamie, and then I met
it was right after
Jeff
right after Victoria and I left. You guys went up.
Yeah, and that was really fun, and I just had a good time. They had the duck pond and everything. So, and fun little, but yeah, it is different than when I remember. I don't remember if there was as many of the little kiosks, like type things, the street fairs when we were younger. So I don't know if it's different, if we just remember different things because we were into different things. Like we probably weren't very interested in looking at that when we were kids. We wanted to go play in the pond and the pumpkin patch. And
well, that's the part of Apple Hill that I remember is like the pumpkin patch, the pond. That big stone building that's there, and then also those straws filled with honey that we used to get whenever we went up there.
The honey sticks.
Yeah, the honey sticks. Like that I remember those things. But yeah, I went up not too long ago and we were driving around there and I was like, I don't remember any of this. Like I don't remember it being this developed. But that it may be that the buildings didn't look new, but it just may be that you're right. We weren't really interested in those types of things, so we don't remember them.
Yeah.
Right. But it's funny is you brought up the smell of Burton, because that's my second topic that I was going to go over, because that's our other favorite topic. So like Apple Hill, that's we're going to probably revisit this in the future when we do beer reviews, because you can always pick out flavors and things that remind you of things when you're kids. And because up in Apple Hill or up by Ronnie Sue's house or over by Bridal Veil Falls, these types of places, they all have like these very distinct smells, these distinct characteristics. Like, we always had sandwiches, particular type, I don't think there's going to be any wine that, well, actually that's not true. There could be wine that has the taste of like tuna fish sandwiches that have been in the cooler for too long.
I don't know about that one, yeah.
I guess that could happen, but I don't know if that would be very appealing. But
right, like I don't know if I'd want it.
Yeah, exactly. But like I still have a love for that, like the squished tuna fish sandwich that's been in a cooler for like 10 hours.
Oh, absolutely. It's the best thing. Mom actually just sent a picture recently when they went up to go snowboarding and sent a picture, and they said, the best snack, a smushed tuna sandwich.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're good. It's just a good snack. But the other topic, so also in those Cabernet Francs, I brought up blackberries. And it occurred to me while I was doing my wine notes that like blackberries to me are very different than blackberries to a lot of people, because when I say blackberries, I mean Camp Burton blackberries, Vashon Island blackberries. I don't mean the crappy ones from Virginia or the ones that are okay from California. I mean specifically Burton blackberries.
Right off the tree.
Yeah, right
from the sun.
Yeah, you just sit there picking them off the bush. But one of the things that I brought up was the worst part about blackberry picking is when you see a really nice juicy blackberry and you pick it and then you turn it over and on the other side it's unripe for some reason.
Yep.
And you're like, oh man, one side of this is perfect, the other side of it's like completely unripe. And that was the flavor that was in this wine, was the mix of the ripe fruit and the tartness of the underripe blackberry. Yeah, it was very interesting. It was from the Loire Valley in France, but it had that flavor in it that reminded me of it. Just to round out this episode, what are some of your favorite things from Burton? Now, I know let's concentrate on flavors. So for everybody who's listening, I bet you Jorie and I are going to really pump up Burton. even though, you know, we don't make it every year, and I'm not sure how many years in the future we'll be making it. But when we go up to Burton next, I'm not sure if I'll make it this year or not, but when we go up to Burton next, there's a winery on the island. There's also a cidery on the island that Jody Beth and I have been to, and there's a brewery on the island. So I thought that might be a fun thing for us to go check those out while we're up there. But you know, aside from blackberries, there are a couple of things that we really look forward to that are in the meals every year. What are your favorite meals in your memory from Burton?
My favorite meals are definitely square pizza with ranch. And then it's specifically square pizza because they make it on the sheet pans, and then they have good ranch there.
Right.
And then I love the salad bar, of course. They have that. The breakfast salad bar or the breakfast fruit bar and cereal bar is awesome, plus the salad bar for every meal. I really like the grilled cheese sandwiches, and the soups are extra buttery. And then I really like the lunch when you make those sandwiches. They've been a little bit different the last couple years. They've kind of changed.
Yeah.
But I just like, for some reason, making a sandwich there is way better than making a sandwich at home. And it's basically the exact same ingredients as I get at the grocery store and make at home. But for some reason, it's better there. And then, of course, I always like hamburger day because the whole camp smells so delicious. And then we eat outside, and that I enjoy that.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely
also cool.
Yeah. Go.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was
a cool, funny beer/camp situation that happened. So we do beer dinners at Hop Cat every month, where a brewery comes and we do 5 beers and a 4-course meal, 5.5 ounce beers from a specific brewery, 4-course meal that we kind of pair with it. And I went to one several months back, and it was the Ballast. Man, now I can't remember the brewery. I think it was their Blue Blood. No, not Blue Blood. I don't remember the brewery now. Maybe Ballast Point. It was. I feel like it started with a B. And I think it's out of Seattle. And so a guy from the brewery was there doing the beer dinner, and I was like, oh, you live in Seattle, this and that. He goes, well, I actually grew up on Vashon. And I was like, no way, like, I go to Vashon every year, that's crazy. And he's like, oh, cool, yeah, this and that. And then I mentioned Granny's Attic, and he was like, okay, I believe you now. He goes, I didn't think, because it was actually, wait a minute, it was Schilling. It must have been Schilling because it was a cidery.
Oh,
and that's what I said. I said, are you located in Seattle or are you located on Vashon? Because I was asking, I knew you had just gone to the cidery, and I'd asked him if he knew about it. I said, well, my brother and sister had just gone to a cidery on Vashon, and he's like, whoa, I grew up on Vashon. And I said, no way. And I told him, and he was like, oh, cool, blah, blah, blah. And I told him we go to Camp Burton. And then when I mentioned Granny's Attic, he was like, okay, now I know you've been there.
Yeah.
You know all about Granny's Attic. Actually, his family owned the Thriftway.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
yeah,
that's right. Yeah, because we've been to that Thriftway several times. You know, like anytime anytime we were out of something, you know, we got to go get it from camp.
Yeah, or Mom used to have to go to the laundromat, and then she'd probably go over to the Thriftway and get whatever. So yeah. So that was pretty cool. He was like, whoa.
Well, even if we don't all make it out to Burton this year as a family, which I hope that we can, but you know, I think we all have other things going on, and it may not be the easiest way to get together. But I'm going to try to go out to Seattle. I've got a guy who is a really, really, really smart wine guy who lives in Seattle right now, and he's trying to start a wine import company. And I was going to try to just fly out to Seattle because it's pretty cheap to fly out there from Dallas and just go see him. But while I'm there, of course, I got to go to Vashon and go down to, you know, check out Burton and see what's going on the island, and maybe go to one of the wineries, go to one of the cideries, that kind of thing. I know that it's not easy for us all to go out to Burton anymore, but I've got a friend in Seattle right now that I want to try to go out and see this year. And
cool.
I was going to maybe take him to Vashon, and we could go check out the winery there and the cidery. And there's a brewery just called Vashon Brewing that we might go to as well. And it's a great place. There's a lot of, just for anybody who's in the Seattle area or anybody who's making their way to Seattle, if you can carve out a little bit of time to take the ferry across and go to Vashon, it's just a fun community to go check out. A lot of hippies there, a lot of left-wingers, which don't always fit in very well with the hardcore anarchists like Mason and me, but it's always fun. It's, you know, the way I look at it is it's kind of like a freak show. You just go and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So
it is, and it's really pretty, and the smells are great.
Yeah, the smells are great, and like there are so many smells in life that while we're walking around, like that's the memory that comes up, and a lot of it is now that I'm getting into wine, and you smell the wine. There's, you know, sometimes there's a smokiness or a sea smell. Like I had this really great Bordeaux that had a kelpy ocean smell, and it didn't remind me of Burton. It reminded me of Bodega Dunes, but I think that you and I've talked about that actually on the other episode. But those types of smells, anytime there's this mix of smells, it's going to bring up something from your childhood. So the best way to enjoy beer or to enjoy wine is to get out into the world and have experiences in unique places. Because I agree. Yeah, when you got those under your belt, you've got just basically it's like a portal to the past. Just you take like this this dragon's milk that I'm drinking right now, this vanilla flavor. It doesn't have enough of it, but the vanilla flavor kind of brings me back to the vanilla extract that Grandma kept in the cupboard. You know, so like it's not quite that strong, but it reminds me a lot of it. So like you've got like a little bit of a portal. So let's go ahead and wrap up this episode now, since we're almost running at 30 minutes. The two beers that we tried were Dragon's Milk and Adios Pantalones. Dragon's Milk is from New Holland Brewing, which I just turned the bottle over and I realized it says Holland, Michigan on the back. So I don't know I'm not sure where I got New York from, but it says Holland, Michigan on the back. But it's roasty, it's malty, it's smooth. It is not as boozy as you would think coming from a bourbon barrel aged stout. I think it's very good. Not, If you're okay with an 11% ABV beer, go for it. This is for the listeners. Yeah. The other one is
if you're trying to get into, you want to try out barrel aged beers and kind of see what they're all about without getting smacked in the face with a shot of liquor. That's the one to go for.
Yeah. The other one is I think one of your favorite breweries, Rahr and Sons Brewing Company over there near Fort Worth. It's not in Fort Worth, it's south of Fort Worth, but it's called Adios Pantalones. It's a saison. It is flavored with lemon and lime, so it is very refreshing. A really great warm weather beer, and I highly recommend it. So those are the two beers that we reviewed today. Do you have anything else you want to add, Jorie?
Nope.
All right.
Sounds good.
I think that's
go out and smell the world.
Yeah, exactly. Go out and smell the world. Enjoy some beers. Enjoy some wines. And hopefully, Jorie, we'll have you back on next month for another beer review.
Sounds good.
All right. Stay free,
Bye,
everyone.
What you told